films, particularly actors, directors, other producers, technicians whom I have admired, I've worked with. I had the pleasure of being here tonight, are very unique. I wish I had brought it all. So anyway, we've gotten these 3 films together, and I'm very grateful. You heard me, you know about me.
I get a blessing.
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's lovely. Well, what a great way to be. I'm sorry I wasn't here to introduce the film. I started wandering the streets of Bombay and I lost my sense of time. So I'm sorry that I wasn't here to introduce the film, but I'm very happy to thank Ismail. Since we met a year and a half, 2 years ago, he's become a great power in my life, a great spiritual friend, a kind man, somebody whose generosity to everyone he meets is an inspiration to me. I'm here because of Ismail, and I thank him. And he's a great man. I'm sure that most of you know him, and I don't have to tell you. But I just like to, if you guys could just thank Ismail with some applause, that'd be great for me. Thank you. So, I'm happy to answer any questions if anybody has some question. Just speak up so I can hear you. It's incredible to see this film. We made this film during a peacetime in American history in 1985. I grew up with the Vietnam War. 2 of my brothers and 1 of my sisters participated in it. And it's been something that's been very, why it is that we always resort to violence to solve problems. So to see this film today in your country, at a time when America is again in a war that we don't understand, a war that doesn't seem to have any sense. It's very complicated emotionally and intellectually for me to understand why we continue to resort to violence to solve problems. But you know, will we ever know? That's the question, I guess. So, any question? Yeah.
Did you have a formal training in acting?
I did have a formal training in acting. It's interesting, again, to look at this film after, I haven't seen the film in 15 years. There's a highly stylized kind of acting that takes place in the film that's not really, there's nothing naturalistic about the film. It's very stylized, and that was Stanley Kubrick's doing. I think you feel that when you watch the film, that it's almost like boys playing soldiers, you know, saying things that they imagine that men would say in a wartime situation, but it all sounds false and fake. And I think that was Stanley Kubrick's intention, is to show young men playing war, you know, ending the film with a singing Mickey Mouse, you know. It's interesting, the song Mickey Mouse, when you think about it, because it's a story about a group of children. Who's the leader of the club? That was the Mickey Mouse Club. But when you think of it in another sense, if you think of it as corporations, you know, corporations in the world, or the influence of America, who is marching coast to coast and far across the sea? Who's the leader of the gang that's made for you and me? You know, it's interesting because it can take on a different kind of corporate or nationalistic connotation.
I would like to ask a question as an actor.
Yes, ma'am. Well, you have a sense of responsibility. You know, that it's not just the Vietnam War, it's all wars. That I don't feel that this film is specifically that war. It's just that why do we resort to violence? This was what Stanley Kubrick was curious with all of his war films, with Spartacus, with Paths of Glory, with Dr. Strangelove, with Full Metal Jacket, is why do we continually resort to violence to solve problems? Why aren't we able to intellectually find a way to solve problems? That this is the struggle of humanity. To move forward, we have to find a way to find peaceful ways to solve problems. And it's man's dilemma. So when an actor plays a soldier, you have a sense of responsibility to try to be truthful. And that's what I strive to do.
Could you just tell us a little about the experience you had working with Stanley Kubrick?
First of all, I would say that there's a tremendous amount of confusion that surrounds Stanley Kubrick, that people often thought that he was kind of eccentric or crazy. And I find that he was one of the most kind and generous men that I've ever met, an awful lot like Ismail. Somebody who, he lived in the countryside in England where he raised his animals, he had his children, his wife. For him, living in the countryside made perfect sense. So why live in London when $100,000 buys a little flat in the middle of London when $100,000 outside of London could buy 100 acres? So he moved out there, and so people thought that that was quite eccentric to live so far away from the center. When you're an important filmmaker, you have to be out and involved in the world, and it wasn't necessary for him. The whole world would come to Stanley. So, I mean, I think that says a lot about him. I don't have to elaborate on that he loved his animals, he loved his children, and he loved his wife. He found some material that he wanted to devote himself to. He gave his life to it. I had two brothers that were drafted. You know, they had to join. And my sister volunteered as a nurse. I grew up with the Vietnam War, watching it on television, and so, in a sense, participating in it vicariously. It was something that I was trying to understand. So when I received this script from Stanley Kubrick, I would have said yes anyway, but I was very happy to work on it because it was a script that was going to try to help to explain something that I was very curious about. This was my motivation. That was my curiosity. I think that all the films that I've done have been, in a sense, a struggle to try to understand what we're doing here, you know, what this life is, you know. Yeah. Yes, I am an American. Why is America involved in Iraq? As an artist? I think that my frank opinion would probably be the same as most people, is that there's some ulterior motive to why America is involved there. I think it's probably something as horrible as oil. You know, it might be something as simple as that. Oil. You know, it's something that the whole world, we have an addiction to, like people have an addiction to heroin. You know, it's a poison that's poisoning the whole planet, but we don't want to give up our addiction for it. We have many opportunities to look for alternatives to oil, you know, whether they be solar or electric, you know, things of this nature. But we don't want to. We're all in love with the oil. You know, there's a couple shots in the film that were shot, I don't know where, with the helicopter shots when they showed, they probably were Southeast Asia. But the entire film was shot in London. The finale of the film, the city of Hue, was 20 minutes from downtown London in a place called Beckton Gasworks, the Isle of Dogs. That's the genius of Stanley Kubrick. How many days did it take to shoot the film? I worked on the film for a year. I was in England for a year working on the film. The drill instructor, Lee Ermey, who did such a fantastic job, was in a car accident and crushed his chest. So he wasn't able to, you know, he has to speak so much, yell so much, and he wasn't able to speak because his chest was crushed. Did any of you see Married to the Mob? That was fun, wasn't it? Isn't Michelle Pfeiffer cute? No. I'm ashamed to say that I haven't. You know, Ismail has promised me that he's going to give me a great education in classic Indian cinema, beginning with Shakespeare Walla. So I'm making a big list of DVDs that I hope, I want to learn from the beginning, you know, like the golden age of Bollywood, of Indian cinema. Okay, thank you so much.